It's a strange day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just announced multiple new secret layers as part of the upcoming fall superdrop. One of them is a Hatsune Miku lair where they've reskinned a number of planeswalkers for characters in the Miku universe. But stranger than that is the Child's Play secret lair that features the old Chucky doll from ancient horror movies. Magic just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a very odd installment of Mega Magic News Secret Lair Super Drop Edition. Now, before we talk about the Secret Lair Insanity, I just want to touch on the fact that tomorrow is the Duskmorn pre-release. And, as luck would have it, I am in possession of a Duskmorn pre-release kit. So tonight, on my live stream channel, I'm going to be cracking this open, and you are welcome to join me for some good times. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk secret layers. We're going to start out with the Hatsune Miku secret lair, which you will see on the screen right now. Now, with this particular secret lair, we don't have the individual cards to look at in their entirety. It's just staggered like this because Wizards hasn't released the full images. So, going through what we have here, right up at the front, we've got Miku, Divine Diva. That is Elspeth Tyrael, right? And then behind her, you have some other individuals. I'm not going to pretend like I know people from the Hatsune Miku universe, right? So I had to trust what other people were saying the names of these characters were. It's simpler for ones like Kaido, the mysterious, I presume it says Maestro. He is Jace, Explorer of Secrets, right? Which feels a little bit strange when they already have a Kaido who's a planeswalker, which you feel like would be a slam dunk choice. But regardless, whoever this blue-haired dude is, this is Kaido. Hatsune Miku's universe is way bigger than I thought it was. There are tons of different supporting characters. And on a side note, if you are a fan of Hatsune Miku, you are going to want to make sure you set an alarm for when the super drop actually goes live for sale, because these things sell out at light speed. I've made a lot of correct predictions about Magic the Gathering over the years, but if you had asked me, hey, will a Hatsune Miku secret lair sell like gangbusters and be the first thing to sell out? I'd be like, I don't know what that is, and the answer is no. But I know now from seeing the previous two drops that these sell out insanely fast. I can't think of any secret lair that's actually sold out faster than the Hatsune Miku one. So, returning back to the cards, so you have Kaido behind Miku, and then on the other side behind Miku, you have a character that I believe her name is Luca, and she is Liliana of the Dark Realms. And then going to the very back row, on the left-hand side, you have Miku, Voice of Power, who is Freyalise Lanoir's Fury. And then on the other side of it, you have Rin and Len, who are basically a reskin of Will and Rowan as the Royal Scions. So apparently those two are either siblings or actually twins, so that fits flavor-wise. Ultimately, this is a super strange drop to me. Wizards of the Coast had kind of moved away from planeswalkers as much it seemed, and were moving way more into legendary creatures specifically for commander, because planeswalkers can't be your commander, and yet here we have one that's straight up 5 planeswalkers. I think what's going on, and I still have to look more into it, but I think what's going on with Wizards is they're realizing that people liked planeswalkers more than they thought, and leaning too much into Commander is actually causing problems for the game. So there are a number of different items that lead me to believe that Wizards of the Coast is once again making an inside shift where they're moving away from leaning too heavily into the legendary. So things like we saw with Thunder Junction, where there were 50 legendaries. I believe there might actually be a quote out there recently from Mark Rosewater talking about how they're going to be consciously moving the amount of legendary creatures and sets downwards. And I know that he recently did a poll asking people how many like planeswalkers they feel like is the right amount in a set, because they had reduced it down to 1 or 2 planeswalkers per set. And this is all obviously from the aspect of commanders. So maybe they just did this because, hey, we've got all these different characters, let's go ahead and make them into planeswalkers. But you'd figure if there are people who are fans of Kaido and Rin and Len and Luca and like characters like that, wouldn't you want to make them legendary so people could use them as the commanders of their deck? But overall, this is a very weird assortment of planeswalkers, but it doesn't matter because, like I said, these things sell like crazy. The amount of people who have lamented to me that they missed out getting to buy one of these, the list of names is pretty long. So again, if you want it, make sure you jump on it really quickly. Now that that's done, let's go talk about the Chucky secret lair, which has some actual fun flavor to it. We're starting off talking about the Chucky secret lair with its namesake right here, but reskinned Cardur Doomscourge is actually what it is in Magic terms. So, Chucky is a legendary creature, demon, berserker, which feels half accurate, right? Chucky is really a human soul that is stuck in a doll so it can go on a murderous rampage. But the berserker part feels pretty apt actually, because Chucky does go berserk. Now, his abilities are, whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And then the other ability is when Chucky enters, until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. And he's a 4/3 for a black, a red, and 2. Now, when it comes down to the abilities, one of them I feel like more encapsulates the concept of Chucky, and the other one not so much. So the first ability is the one that doesn't feel like it 100% fits, right? Each opponent losing a life and you gaining a life whenever an attacking creature gets taken out, that doesn't really feel like it ties into the concept, because Chucky doesn't gain life force from taking people out, so that part, not so much. But the lower part here, where when he enters, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able, that does evoke the concept of a doll that at first nobody knows is actually got that person's soul in it, going around and go pia pia pia, getting people, right? So it can lead the blame to be shifted to other individuals, cause confusion. So I feel like that actually does tie nicely into the flavor. And speaking of nice flavor, the overall design of this is fantastic. It evokes the concept of a movie poster. The little details are quite enjoyable. Like the outer yellow edge is actually the cardboard box that Chucky is breaking out of because he is a doll. And you can see the little bits of corrugation that are there showing you, yo, this is a straight up just a cardboard box, right? And then in the upper corner, you can see the casting cuffs tucked down alongside, and it's there informationally, but it doesn't really distract from the overall movie poster vibe of it. And adding to that vibe is the restricted 4/3 box down there, which in the most minor quibble, there are Magic cards that are actually restricted, so that having it on there could technically confuse somebody, but ultimately it's not really going to, right? And it does add into the flavor overall of the card. I really like the vibe of this, and it's fun as well because it turns out this is actually a double-sided card, and on the other side we get the good guy's version of him. This is Chucky before he breaks out of his box, and it says he wants you for a best friend. And I have to admit that when I was a kid, I had a My Buddy doll, which is what these guys are based on, right? My buddy, my buddy. It's just this little catchy jingle. I'm sure some of you guys actually remember it. So I had one of those My Buddy dolls, and he was my buddy right up until the first Child's Play movie came out, and Chucky totally freaked me out. And like a dumb little kid, I was worried that my doll was going to try and get me. So I put it in the closet and I tied the door shut with yarn so he couldn't get me in my sleep, which is such a hilarious memory to think that I was terrified of something that looks goofy like this. But really, I very much enjoy the way that they've put this together, where on one side you have the, here, I'm coming for you, I've torn out of the box. On the other side, you have the innocuous, yo, I'm just a good guy. I just want to be your buddy, bro. Like, that is a really fun design choice. Let's move on to the next card, which is Play Pal's Factory. So this is 2 for Genesis Chamber. Whenever a non-token creature enters, if Play Pal's Factory is untapped, that creature's controller creates a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. So this obviously is meant to represent the toy factory, where Chucky's like dolls, the good guy dolls, are assembled, right? You can see a number of them that are basically moving up a conveyor belt as they go along. You can see the finished product in the box rolling along in front. And then you can see up in the back a weird looking multi-armed goof bag version, right? And you're like, yo, what is up with that? Well, up there apparently is where they destroy the defective toys. It's really like elaborate, honestly. When you would think about what companies would do with the extra garbage version of things, you would assume they would just throw them out or maybe melt them down for the plastic. But they have a full-on chamber that seems almost like a radiation chamber, where the thing goes into it and it goes whamp, whamp, whamp with a big alarm, and then the door is closed and it destroys the doll, right? So the flavor text actually ties into that. It says, Andy, please, I was only playing. And Chucky says that when he's being moved up the conveyor belt towards the destruction room. But he's literally got like a knife for a hand and you can see blood on it and everything. So it's just like, oh, I was just playing around, buddy. And it's like, time to get destroyed. So he goes up into that chamber, goes, brap, 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 and then it completely obliterates him. And he comes out as this muddled mash of gank. And he's got like little fabric strips and stuff so you can tell that it was the Chucky. So overall, the flavor of this works pretty well, right? It creating 1/1 colorless artifact creature tokens to be representative of the little dolls, that works. So as far as I'm concerned, not a bad choice at all. And the artwork conveys the concept from the movie as well as the mechanical concept. And my favorite cards are ones that tie together well. Now, obviously, Chucky doesn't stay destroyed. He comes back, and we'll mention that in another card. But moving on to the next thing, we've got Tiffany, Bride of Chucky. This is such a goofy concept. If I'm not mistaken, and anybody who's a big fan of Chucky, feel free to correct me because I'm not deep on the Chucky lore, but I think this was like the 4th movie, right? So 1 black and 2 for Tiffany, Bride of Chucky, who is Varigoth the Blood Sky Sire. So a big crazy demon from Kaldheim, actually. A legendary demon rogue. It's pretty wild to add the rogue class to demon. It's like, he's a demon, but he's a roguish demon. It's like, aren't demons super evil to begin with? I mean, it does add more versatility to the card from a mechanical standpoint, but just seeing demon rogue as actual creature types feels a little bit bizarre. He's a bit of a rogue. He's not the most friendly demon. So she is 2/3 Death Touch. She has Boast, 1 black and 1. Target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles and puts that card on top. And she says, "Sure, sorry, I'm not into short guys," as the flavor text. Now, the actress who played Tiffany in the actual movie was Jennifer Tilly, who for me is smoking hot, right? So it's hilarious that she goes from being this amazingly hot woman into this goofy little doll that still has that sweet little baby voice. I know voices like that cut both ways. Some people hate them, some people love them. For me, it's a thumbs up. But having it come out of a goofy little Chucky doll is next level hilarious to me, right? It's just this is when it feels like a franchise has like ultra jumped the shark, because up until this point, as far as I understand, it's really just kind of Chucky facing off against his main enemy, who is Andy, the little boy who originally owned him. And then this is where they go right off the rails. But at the same time, it's a goofy movie about little dolls that are going to come and get you. So it's not like they ruined the purity of the Chucky franchise with this. I have no concept really of how much this was appreciated by Chucky fans overall. I imagine because it's hilarious and goofy that it went over quite well. The fact that she's sitting there with the little bridal veil and she's got the black lipstick out and everything, that little smile, she's even got a little beauty mark, right? It's a funny concept. Now, Death Touch, I mean, she's obviously like, meep, 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 like Chucky is, but the boast ability, I'm not sure exactly how that's really supposed to tie in flavor-wise when I look at it. Like, what does her being a doll have to do with fetching and acquiring things for you? So if there's anybody who's a big fan of these movies and can make sense of that, let me know, because I'm going to be moving on to the next card, which is Friends to the End. 1 red and 1 for a sorcery with Strive. So it costs 1 red and 2 more to cast for each target beyond the first. Choose any number of target creatures you control. For each of them, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it has haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So this right here looks to me like Chucky is either wandering through the factory where these toys are made and there's a bunch on the shelf, or he's wandering through some kind of store. I can't actually place exactly what point this is in the Chucky timeline, and I'm not 100% sure why Twin Flame is being chosen here, because you choose any number of target creatures and make one copy that's a control, like that one copy of them. So there's nothing that really feels like overall it like ties in. But again, I'm not a major Chucky lore guy, so I could be just missing something that's obvious to people who are. This one to me was the least clear in terms of conceptually what they're going for. I don't think that he enlists another doll to be his ally aside from the bride one that we talked about overall. So this one is, it feels like a weird choice, but what are you going to do, right? Let's move on to the next card. That is, sorry, Jack, Chucky's back. So like I told you, Chucky comes back. This is, I believe, the second movie where obviously some company is trying to, or like some individuals are trying to bring the doll back. I'm not sure how Chucky comes back, right? Like, do they take the ruined wreckage of him and rebuild him? Because I've only watched the first Chucky movie in its entirety, and the rest of them I've only been exposed to through media references, YouTube clips, stuff like that over the years. So I don't know exactly how he's brought back, but this is an interesting choice for the card to bring him back. So 1 black for Phyrexian Reclamation, which is an old school and common from the Urza's block that people really like. So this is a nice include. It's an enchantment, 1 black and 1, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And the flavor text says, I don't care what it takes, put a lid on this. And that's a quote from Mr. Sullivan, PlayPal's CEO. So obviously, when it comes to the flavor text, this is the guy who owns the doll company, or maybe not owns it, but is in charge of it. And it's like, no. Okay, hold on. So this murder doll is back now? Yeah, we've got to wrap this all up. Oh, we've lost some of our employees here? Just cover it up, right? So this right here is about bringing creatures back from your graveyard, and Chucky is brought back in this. That's pretty straightforward. The whole paying 2 life, you could look at that thematically as going, that dude is paying with his life as he's being electrocuted. I really like the way that the electricity is shown flowing over his body, almost like he's being embraced and wreathed in lightning, right? It's got a pretty great vibe, and I get a chuckle as well from the hand outstretched like this with the little bit coming off of it, like he's like, I am a wizard, and it's just this sad little lightning bolt that he's throwing up. Like, it is a fun concept, and you can see Chucky is there. It looks like he's having electricity blasted straight into his head. I don't know if this is actually like the eyes being set into his head, but the actual name of the card is referencing the original commercial for the second movie, where it's got like a Jack in the Box and it's just playing the Jack in the Box, and then Chucky like stomps it out and is like, sorry Jack, Chucky's back, right? So I've heard people say that that's also supposed to reference the Hit the Road Jack song, and it might be like a tie into that. I don't know, but either way, this is a good choice for a reprint, and thematically, it's pretty easy to pick up on what they're going for. So this is way more straightforward than Twin Flame was. And that wraps up all of the Chucky Secret Lair cards. So, like I said, I'm going to be doing a pre-release kit opening over on my live stream channel. I'll leave a link to that down in the comment section and up here at the end of the video if you want to come and hang out, or if you want to watch it afterwards. So, thanks for coming by, my friends. Big shout out to my patrons for supporting my channel, and I will see you all in the next video.